President Marcos recently signed the Ligtas Pinoy Centers Act to help provide dedicated spaces for Filipinos frequently affected by typhoons, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Joining us via Zoom is Office of Civil Defense Plans Division Acting Chief Eman Balajadia. Magandang umaga, Eman. Thank you very much for joining us.
Magandang umaga at sa lahat ng taga-subaybay ng Billionaire News Channel. Good morning.
All right, so the Ligtas Pinoy Centers Act recently signed by President Bongbong Marcos. When can we actually expect these permanent evacuation centers to actually be implemented?
Yeah. So the implementation would be in phases. So we want it to be strategic and gradual. So far we're developing the IRR of the law. So after that, we'll determine the priority areas, the high risk municipalities and cities. And of course, this would be a phased implementation based on a multi-year plan. We'll determine the funding and resources to be allocated annually for this.
Upon reading the act, notice may mga standards po kayo with regard to gaano kalaki yung population, of course, the size and the space available. There's also structural safety concerns that has to be addressed as well. Who would be responsible for ensuring na structurally sound ang mga evacuation centers po nito, especially considering yung scale ng act po nito?
Of course, it would be the Department of Public Works and Highways that shall ensure the structural safety of these evacuation centers. However, the NDRRMC will closely monitor and, of course, we develop a menu of minimum conceptual design standards for these evacuation centers.
Normally, can you give us an idea of how many evacuees should these centers hold, these evacuation centers hold, and the typical number that we normally see being housed prior to this bill being enacted?
So a typical evacuation center has an average of 100 to 500 evacuees, depending on the size of the structure and available facilities. But big evacuation centers from highly populated areas or disaster-prone areas can house up to 1,000 people. So we want to have comfort and safety, and the minimum requirement is around 3 to 5 square meters per person to prevent overcrowding.
And a lot of the issues that I foresee here will actually be on funding in terms of who would be handling the funds, the budgets, and of course the role of the local government units. Can you give us a bit more detail about the financing of these centers?
Yeah. The local government units will play a significant role in this law. Of course, they will first fund the construction of this law. However, the national government will assist those who have difficulties or limitations in their funding. The national government has an oversight on this and will provide technical guidance and monitor the compliance of these LGUs.
Are there any penalties for those LGUs who will not be able to abide by this law for one reason or the other?
Yeah, of course. One main feature of the law is accountability to ensure compliance of our LGUs in the construction of these evacuation centers. So they're mandated to comply with this law, and they have to allocate necessary funds and ensure that the centers are functional and disaster resilient. So if they have not complied with this law, of course, administrative sanctions under the local government code and relevant civil service laws shall be applied.
Eman, what are the other highlights of this law? Obviously, there are yung mga minimum standards and the requirements with regard to this being a safe space for all genders as well. And there are also requirements with regard to being disaster resilient to earthquakes, landslides, and even flooding. What, in your opinion, are the bigger highlights? Siguro na hindi natin nabibigyan pansin masyado.
Yeah. So Napakaganda po nitong batas na ito, no? Kasi intentional na nilagay talaga na the evacuation centers should be accessible and inclusive. So we included here the accessibility to persons with disabilities, pregnant women, senior citizens. We have to ensure the safety and protection of vulnerable groups. And also, we have to look into the gender sensitivity provisions of this law. Napakaganda talaga nung law na ito at sana ma-implement ng mabuti. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much as OCD Plans Division Acting Chief, Eman Balajadia, for your insights. Maraming salamat po. Stay safe.